Hi everyone, I am Cameron Moone, and this is my video presentation for History of Communication fall semester. I chose music and then along the lines of the life and legacy of Elvis Presley. So let's get started. In the beginning, Elvis Aaron Presley was born on January 8th, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi. The King of Rock was born to Vernon Elvis and Gladys Love, whose maiden name was Smith. He had a brother named Jesse, which is something a lot of people do know. It was Elvis's twin. He was delivered about 35 minutes after Elvis was born, but unfortunately he was stillborn. So here on the slide in the bottom right, I have the birthplace of Elvis in Tupelo, which was that house. And on the bottom left, I have a picture of Elvis's parents, Vernon and Gladys. So growing up, Elvis's family was very poor, and in 1948, when Elvis was 13, him and his family moved to Memphis, and only after a few weeks being off of welfare, he sent audition tapes to the producer Sam Phillips at Sun Records and was given a record deal. He recorded genres with session musicians along the lines of blues, country, tin pan alley ballads, and gospel. And overall, Elvis is kind of known for engineering the rockabilly genre. This is the genre that a lot of people are familiar with Elvis's music being, and early on he released 5 singles, but the 5th single, Mystery Train, released in August 1955, would go on to be one of his most well-known songs and the song that truly got him on the map, and the song that allowed him to began to be aired on Louisiana Hayride, which was a popular radio show at the time. In the bottom right of that slide, there is Elvis in a Sun Records promotion around the year 1954. So a very young Elvis was being used in promotions to try and garner more popularity for the record label, which gave Elvis more popularity overall. So with all the fame that Elvis was beginning to get, his management was turned over to a man named Colonel Tom Parker in 1955. Parker himself was a country music hustler who arranged the sales to RTA. When Elvis's likeness was sold to RCA, it was a $35,000 deal, and Elvis himself received $5,000 of it. Many hit songs followed that, like Heartbreak Hotel, Don't Be Cruel, Love Me Tender, all 3 of those coming out in 1956, and then in 1957, All Shook Up came out, followed by many more songs, and overall, the King of Rock dominated bestseller charts for years. He invented the concept of rock and roll, and the Ed Sullivan Show and the Milton Berle Show definitely gave Elvis the ability to mold himself into what everybody mainly knows him as is Elvis the Pelvis, as he was called at the time, due to his erotic dancing and his suggestive lyrics and just the way he moved overall on the stage. After the Milton Berle Show, people that began to film Elvis for television shows swore to never film his whole body. They just filmed him from the waist up due to his suggestive dancing. So overall, Elvis was adored by some and despised by others. Undoubtedly, at the time, he was a heartthrob due to his good looks and the greaser look that he had. Became a teen icon for girls at the time, but in 1958, he was drafted to the Army. Now, think of, in today's standards, somebody like Charlie Puth or Justin Bieber being drafted in the Army. It was very unprecedented for the time. But it was definitely not uncommon. It was just very hard for people to imagine somebody like Elvis going to the military. Previous famous celebrities had gone to the military, such as baseball players like Ted Williams. But definitely people grieved over the fact that the King of Rock had to go to the Army. And on the other side of things, people adoring him, his music was denounced by religious figures. His hip-swinging and provocative singing, like I mentioned earlier, his nickname Elvis the Pelvis, was disliked by religious figures, and he became a target of blame for teenage misbehavior. And on the right side of this slide, I have the cover of Presley's debut album. So overall, the 60s was the beginning of the decline for Elvis's career. He returned from the Army in 1960 and started to transition away from music into more of a heavy acting career. The first movie, Blue Hawaii, which is undoubtedly probably his most famous film, To Change of Habit, in 1969. And many of these movies became designated as the Elvis genre. It's basically a light comedic movie with musical interludes. And by the 1968, he had lost most of his fame. However, a Christmas special brought back some success. Around the second half of the 60s, he was married in 1967, and his daughter, Lisa Marie, was born in 1968. On the bottom right of that slide, I have Presley in the aforementioned movie Blue Hawaii. So towards the end of Elvis's life, he developed an unhealthy lifestyle from fame. He mixed very heavy eating habits with drug use. He gained weight and lost a lot of the confidence that his younger self had. And on August 16th, 1977, at the age of 42, Elvis died at his home from a heart attack. When Elvis died, mourners gathered at Graceland to mourn the King of Rock's death, and overall, Elvis undoubtedly has one of the biggest legacies in music and recorded history. It's estimated that over 1 billion records of his has sold, which is insane to think about, considering he was only a solo artist. He had 18 number one singles in that quote I included at the bottom. Elvis is leaving the building. There's just a lot of quotes and memorabilia and just overall just things to be remembered about Elvis. And on the bottom right of the slide there, I have a picture of Graceland, which was his estate in the South. There were my references that I used for this presentation. Thank you for watching.